Hi, welcome to our next episode of Wisdom from the Trenches, homeschooling guide for parents by parents. Today we have Alia as our guest. Hi, Alia.
Hi.
She is second generation homeschooler. So she has reaped the benefits of being homeschooled, and now she homeschools as well as her sister homeschools. So I think that's a very beautiful thing as a family. So welcome. We can't wait to hear everything you have to share with us, Alia.
Thank you.
So Alia, how was to be homeschooled?
I had a great experience homeschooling. It was back in the 90s, so it was a little bit different than how it is now. But a lot of it has remained a lot the same. And my siblings and I really enjoyed it. We all did elementary, and then we all went off to high school. So we kind of got a little bit of both, but I didn't even find the transition into public school. It wasn't that bad.
So you homeschool and your sister homeschool. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it's pretty cool that the two of you can exchange notes on what you're doing, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's great. Well, she lives in British Columbia, and I'm in Ontario, so there is that gap. We don't get to see each other face to face, but we do phone dates and exactly. Exchange notes. What are you doing? And here's some ideas. And a bunch of our kids, a couple of them are the same age. So yeah, it's great to see what she's using for certain subjects. And then, we can help each other out.
That's pretty cool. I love it because it sounds, for what you're sharing with us, that your family does embrace homeschooling. Mm-hmm. Like there is a lot of support, a lot of acceptance. I think that takes a huge weight off you.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's just part of who you are, who you grew up to be.
Yeah.
Awesome. Exactly. So as a mom, what does it mean for you to be a homeschooler? Because you were a homeschooler as a child, and it's a different perspective than you being in charge of your kids' education.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit surreal because I get the flashbacks of, oh my goodness, I remember being the student and having my mom telling me the exact same things. But it is kind of nice to have that background where I can think like, oh, this is what my mom did, so I'm going to try to incorporate that into my homeschooling. I have a very vivid memory of my brother just sitting and drumming on the table, and my mom just saying, all right, 10 laps. And she would get him to go, and he would run around 10 laps around our house. And now I have a son around the same age, and he's the same way. And I'm like, all right. So we actually got a treadmill for that purpose. So it's like, okay, 5 minutes on the treadmill. And it makes all the difference. He can calm down and focus. And just little things like that where it's like, I remember that. And even just having that background of when I had a preschooler and just kind of starting into kindergarten and grade 1, and just remembering, my mom just would sit down and just kind of doodle a few things, and there'd be like 3 triangles in a circle, and we had to find the different one, and like just the simplicity of that, and just going out in the forest and rolling over a rock and seeing what's underneath. And I had that idea of like, it isn't just sitting and doing book work. So I already kind of had that idea, so that was a big advantage for me. And a lot of the books that I used, I actually took from my parents when I grew up, because I knew I wanted to homeschool. So I just thought, well, I'm going to take these and use them one day. And it's been great that I just have them.
I bet that's a huge advantage, that you don't have to start from zero and figuring out how this is going to look like. You have already, let's say, a template that you say, okay, well, this worked for my mom, and this I would like to change. And of course, times change, right? So the generation changes. So you just have been adapting. So how does a day in your homeschool look like?
Usually we start anywhere between 8:30 and 9. And that's when we do, my kids all do a journal, and they start with a gratitude journal, and it's just a simple little notebook, and they have to say, today I'm thankful for, and then say something. They can draw a picture if they want, and then that's that. It's just a simple little exercise to do, but it gets the kind of today I'm thankful for copy work every single day. And then it kind of gets them starting their day with a grateful heart. And then they do their normal journal. And that usually is anywhere from a half an hour to an hour to 3 hours someday. Who knows? And then we do, while they're still at the table, we'll do some math, and we'll do some language, and just kind of anything that we need to do together. And then I'll take off, one by one, each child that needs help reading. So we do our reading together, and while the other kids are kind of working on their math and other copy work or book work. And then after lunch is when we do our morning time in the afternoon, only because that's when my toddler is sleeping, and that works out the best where we're not disturbed. And that's a lot of the time when we do our history and our geography and memory work and read alouds and anything that we do kind of where I'm kind of more leading. Mm-hmm. And then the kids are just kind of coloring or doing perler beads or painting or just listening to me talking and just kind of interacting. And that's when we do in the afternoon. And any day that is nice and sunny, if we have a random warm day, or a few days ago we had snow and we're like, okay, we're going to have a hour snow break and everyone outside. And so it isn't the same every day, but it is nice to be flexible, but also have that kind of template of what we want to do.
So you have kind of more like a routine rather than a schedule.
Right.
So that it opens for flexibility. Let's say, well, today, like you said, it snows, so we can open that space for that. Or it can be a beautiful day like today and take a walk. So it is nice that there is flexibility and there is not that rigidity that at 9 o'clock we have to do.
Right.
So that's beautiful. I forgot to ask, how old are each one of your kids?
So my oldest is 11. And then I have a 9-year-old, and then I have a 7-year-old, and then I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And 4 of them are boys, and the 5-year-old is a girl. So she's got 4 brothers.
She'll be very well-rounded and know how to be around boys.
Oh, yeah. She can hold her own.
That's awesome. So that's so beautiful. So what you were talking at the beginning with the thankfulness, that sounds like character development. And how does that work at home? Because I think when we started to take education as granted, kind of like the ones who we went to the school system, kind of some of those values and things that we take for granted that we think that automatically passes for our kids, like thankfulness or being respectful or being thankful to the Lord, all that stuff kind of gets lost in between the academics and trying to mimic a school and the craziness of everyday life. So how do you handle that at home?
Well, character building is really important to me. Actually, my husband and I. And I remember I've done a lot of reading about it. And I remember, I think it was Dave Ramsey that said, in an interview, he's actually interviewing the applicant on their character and not their skills, because he said, I can train anyone to do anything. Like I can pay for their schooling if I really wanted to, or whatever, like the subjects in the university and whatever's on that paper doesn't matter as much as the person's character, because he says, if they have all the check marks that he needed for the job, but the person's a jerk, or they're not very respectful to the other coworkers or to him or the other bosses, he's like, they're useless. Like, I just want somebody who has good character. So for me, I just think, well, if that's what employers are looking for, which I know most of them would agree, I want to begin with that and kind of get that. I guess it's more of a foundation where it's, you kind of have that foundation where when you teach how to be respectful, then when it comes to learning and being the parent to the child knows to be respectful to whether they want to do their math or not. So it kind of goes into the academics, but just to have that foundation is just really important to us. So I've actually just put together 24 character traits that I thought would be good for the kids to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And just like a little blurb about, I want to be respectful, and this is what I'm going to do to be respectful. And then there's a little Bible verse that kind of ties it back to the Bible. And we do that as our memory work, and we just keep repeating them over and over again. We've been doing them for a couple of years now, and the kids do their copy work with them. And it's actually been really cool because I can say like, oh, I want to be strong. And, when they feel like they can't do something, and then they're like, oh yeah, I can be strong. And it just kind of clicks in their head. And I don't know, I guess I have this thought that it's just they're going to remember it forever. So I want to drill it into their head so they remember it forever.
And you mentioned a key factor within the remembering is repetition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, most likely happen in your home. How do we say thank you? And when you ask something, please.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm waiting for the magic word. Okay, please. Can I please have this? And at my home was the golden rule. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. So would you like somebody to be rude to you? No, then that means you're not rude to others.
Absolutely.
So obviously different cultures. I came from Mexico, you're a Canadian, but more or less we kind of got some of those values, character development. And I think there is so much competition right now in the world of who has which skills. But if we don't have a way to treat properly others, those skills are pretty much useless. All the academics, all whatever they're offering is useless if you cannot be a proper citizen.
Right.
To show respect for your country, to show respect for your family. And it starts at home, right? Like everything starts at home. The way that you treat people at home and are treated at home is going to reflect on the outside with their friends, with their community. So I think that that's awesome. I think that that's a very important thing that you're doing with character development. And I would like to mention that you have an Instagram page with your sister, Home and School, Alia and Amy. And they have beautiful excerpts. I think your blurb for the character development, it is included in there. But I find it beautiful because our kids really need it. It is kind of like the food for the soul or food for thought that they learn. This is a very basic skill and it's going to help them throughout their entire life, regardless of what they choose to be in life.
Right. Exactly.
So going back to homeschooling, many parents that are considering homeschooling now that COVID is closing all schools left, right, and center, and then they open and they offer online. And what would be the reasons that you will share with a parent to say it is possible? You do not need to be a physicist to be able to teach your kids. So
yes, exactly.
What would you tell them?
I've never actually had my kids in school and then had to pull them out, but I've heard from other parents who have done that. They highly recommend deschooling. So you basically have to erase not all of what they've learned, but you want to kind of not continue what they were doing. So you don't want to have your kid thinking like, hey, I have to sit in a desk and this is what I have to do all day. And then like it's just different. So you want to just start with that as a starting point and say, homeschooling can look in several different ways. And it doesn't always just look like a classroom setting, but it's at your house. So you just want to kind of have that thought for you as a parent and for your child too, to just kind of make that connection. And yeah, so I guess I would say that because homeschooling, there are different ways to do it. Like, no two homeschoolers do the exact same way. There's different methods, and then there are different combinations of those methods. And even for me personally, year to year and month to month, and sometimes day to day, it's different. So it's just kind of, you do what you need to do the way you need to do it. And as long as your kid is absorbing something, I guess that's the main goal. And that there isn't, this fight where it's like, you need to finish this math and, you can't play outside and everyone's outside until you finish this. Like, you don't want to have it so strict, but then at the same time, you want them to get their work done. So it's just kind of figuring out what works for you and what works for your child. And again, child to child is different. You have different learning styles and different personalities. So you have to kind of learn your child before they can learn from you. And that's just kind of trial and error. For like, I always think I'm going to get good at homeschooling after my kids all graduate, and then I'll have, oh shoot, I should have tried that or whatever. Like, I think all of us are like that, where it's like, oh, I could have done this different today or last year or whatever. But you just kind of figure it out and do what works for you. And sometimes even day to day with there's different circumstances. And like we were talking about the weather, like everything can be different, and you can always just kind of hide learning into whatever you're doing. So if you're planning a family vacation to Niagara Falls, well, we're going to learn about the geography of the Great Lakes, and we're going to learn about the history and how erosion happens and the mist and the rainbows and just all of that. You can just add it in. So you don't have to think, hey, I have to get through this stack of books, and then once I'm done that stack of books, then my child has graduated whatever grade. Like, you just kind of figure out, okay, what do I want them to learn? And you want them to master that. And whatever method you need to do to kind of get to that point is what you need to do. So it's very fluid. And, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't just say, this is how you do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. It's like parenting, I guess. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it every single time, where it's just like, you do the best that you can. And sometimes you have some great successes and sometimes you have some failures, but it is what it is.
I think you hit the nail on the head at saying there is no right or wrong. There is no magic formula for homeschooling. There are many methods, and you can choose one. There are much curriculum. You can choose one, but always observe your child and what works for your child, but also some of what works for you. Because I know that sometimes things that work for my child is like, no, this is going to drive me crazy, and this is not going to work. Other thing that I like that you mentioned is to be flexible is what it works for your family. Combine it with real life. You're going to do the trip. This is what we're going to see. And I bet your kids actually sometimes are just curious. It's not just you doing all the work. It's that I bet that they ask you like 3,000 questions. What about this? What about that? And can we do this? Can we do that? So I think that it's beautiful that you sound to have like an open window to say, we can learn from everything and everything around. It doesn't have to be in a book. It doesn't have to be in a workbook. It's just learn from life. And I really like that you're mentioning. And it's beautiful that you learned that experience growing up yourself as homeschoolers, which I'm pretty sure that you must be so proud that your kids are being homeschooled and hoping that later on they will homeschool their kids, so I guess, as well. It's a secret hope, but we know it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
How did the pandemic affected your homeschool?
Yes, it definitely rattled us. Um, I guess the biggest thing was our co-op being canceled, church being canceled, sports being canceled, the libraries being closed. Like, what is a homeschooler without the library? That was very hard. But on the flip side, we were very fortunate to kind of have everything that we needed, at least the bare minimum. Um, and there was a few things that back in March we were actually doing a chemistry unit. So we wanted to learn about the sugar bush and how the sap turns into syrup by evaporating and kind of the whole science to that. So we were just kind of about to learn that, and we had planned to go to the sugar bush, which we couldn't. So and we were going to go with a couple other families as well. So that part was like, oh shoot, now we have to think of something else, which, okay, let's learn about diseases. Why not? Because the kids are like, what's corona? Like, what is that? So we're like, okay, let's learn about germs and let's learn about washing your hands and soap and like just all that stuff where it's like, this is kind of what we're dealing with now. So why not embrace it? And my son, my 11-year-old, he actually got really interested in bird watching. And
cool.
I think a lot of it had to do with what else is there to do? So we would just literally look out the window and see some birds and, okay, let's feed it the bird feeder. And, the squirrels are going to come and eat it and all that. And so he started taking pictures with my camera, and he started researching different birds and what they eat and how you can identify them, and even the different bills and the claws and just all of that he kind of got more into because his hockey was canceled. So it was just one of those things, and he still really enjoys bird watching, and I think he's going to forever because he is so interested in it. And I've got him some new books about it, and he's read them all, and it's books that a normal 11-year-old wouldn't just pick up and read. So it's been really cool in that way, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to do something different, and we're just, instead of just pouting about, oh, we can't do this, well, let's see what we can do. So the forests are still open, and well, most of them were. And, even though it was cold weather, let's bundle up and go. And then all summer it was nice, and let's just do what we can do and, adapt to that. And, when everything maybe goes back to normal, who knows, then we can, explore the new things that we wanted to do. Like if we can go back to our co-op, then that would be great. And we can go back to the library, and, we can do skating, and the kids can join hockey again or whatever. Then we'll get there when we get there. But as for right now, it's just, let's just see what we can do. And it's funny because I guess I'm a bookaholic. I guess it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you homeschool, you must love books. It's like, yeah, it's a stereotype, but it's true. And it's funny because my husband would always see the orders that I got from Amazon, or I'd go to the Goodwill bookstore and come home with a stack. And he would, I think he wasn't more frustrated with the books or that I was buying them. I think it was more, I would ask him to build another bookshelf when the bookshelf got full. So he was like, really, another bookshelf? And it's so funny because he used to say, can't you just get these from the library? Like, why do we need all these books if you can just go to library? And then after, the library closed, I'm like, see, this is why we need these books because you never know. And what would we do if we didn't have them? So, you just kind of, I guess, just be thankful for what you have and then just be creative. And there was a lot of, boxes of things that we opened that we probably wouldn't have if we didn't have so much time at home and we're like everyone else baking and all the things that we probably wouldn't do that you have to do at home, and we were just spending so much time here, so we were doing it. But yeah, I guess that's kind of just how we were dealing with it.
That is so cool. I mean, I think I decided also to buy more books rather than pay the late use of the library because we kept using the books, we kept
Yeah.
going back them. So that's
Mhm.
awesome that you were able to adapt and make use of whatever was available during the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, because it was a hard hit. But actually, one of the things that we missed the most of everything when everything closed down was socialization. Like you said, our
Mhm.
co-op was not allowed to go back.
Right.
And that was the day of the week that we will work extremely hard to make it through. That was kind
Mhm.
of like a reward day.
Oh, yeah.
So, so
Mhm.
how do you adapt it to the socialization thing? Because I mean, I have talked in different interviews that to make it clear to people who want to homeschool, we don't stay at home. It's homeschool, but that doesn't mean that we stay all the time at home. We
Oh,
do go
yes.
out to the store. We do go out to different places. We have clubs. We have play dates, plenty of play dates.
Mhm.
So how are you handling that situation now?
As of right now, because the weather, I mean, until it gets really cold, it has been very helpful to go out and be outside. Like, that's kind of a boundary that we've drawn where it's like, okay, we can see our friends, but it must be outside, and we're going to explore a forest, and we're going to try to keep our distance, and we're obviously not sharing snacks and drinks or whatever. Not that I don't know if they did before, but I'm just more careful about that. And you can make it work. I have a couple of friends where me and another mom will get together, and we'll kind of be distance, and we'll go for a walk. And the kids are playing roller hockey, which is actually really easy to keep distance because you have the stick and you have a full cage over your face and you've got gloves. So, and you're not usually that close. And unless you're, I mean, my boys are playing hockey where there's not contact anyway. So they're just kind of there, and riding bikes. That's a good way to keep your distance. You don't want to be close to another biker when you're riding a bike. So that kind of works out. And, you just washing your hands and just doing what you can. And, but just still trying to keep that connection. And like you said, with the technology, it's great that we can do this kind of online thing. But I mean, my kids are young and they have a lot of energy, and to just sit and talk to each other, it just doesn't work. So, to the best way is just to get them outside and doing something. I find even the act of going for a walk, when you're both kind of facing forward, and it's just kind of making it work when you can. And we are missing a huge chunk of our interaction with other people. But again, we're just trying to come up with new ways to do what we can, and yeah, be grateful for that. But it's so funny how people assume that, when you're homeschooled, you have no friends or you don't know anybody and you don't see anybody. Like,
I know.
I think they, like my kids, spend more time with other people than even with me on some days where they were in swimming lessons. We had Y membership, so we were always there with other people. And like I said, they were in hockey, they were doing soccer, they were in church events. We had our co-op, we had just play dates. And we were really not at home very much. And it was great to do that. And it's so funny because my kids, and just like a lot of our kids, are so comfortable talking to people of all ages. And it isn't just, oh, you're in my grade and we can only talk to each other. Like, my kids are very comfortable when we're at the library to, if they're looking for a book they can't find, they will go up and find the librarian and ask them some questions. And that's just very natural to them to just say, oh, I can talk to any age and it isn't weird. And if I want to talk to somebody younger, I'm not cool or whatever. Like, it's just one of those things where they're just so comfortable doing it. And I remember, like at our co-op, we have a bit of time before and after we begin, and a lot of the kids kind of congregate in the gym and they all play together. And I remember just thinking, like, I was so grateful for that, because half of the gym, they're all playing basketball, and the other half, they're all playing floor hockey. And that is the only distinction of what you're going to do. There was, I had my like 5-year-old running around with a stick, and then there's high school kids all playing together and passing to each other, and they knew each other's names and they were all friends. And it was just so natural, because in the real world, there is no other situation where you are just with 25 other people your exact age, and it is just isn't normal. Like, you're usually in a setting where everybody is doing the same job, or they have the same interest, and that's the distinction. And it doesn't matter really how old you are. It's just it just seems weird how in school that's the distinction of what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to talk to. And for us to homeschool and to be with other people, like, we're even like the moms are all different ages and the kids are all different ages, and
cultures
the
and
older
everything.
kids are taking care of the younger kids, and the younger kids are, oh, absolutely. Like, it's just everybody is so comfortable with each other, and it just doesn't occur to them that, hey, this isn't normal, because it is. Like, everyone just getting along and, singing the same songs or playing the same game. It's just so cool.
It is pretty cool, and I think it is a gift that the kids are getting, because they learn just to interact with everybody. I mean, I remember we were looking for a house before we moved here. We always stop at the museums. Wherever we went, we stop at the museums or libraries, and somebody will commented to my kids, like, oh, they're so respectful, they are so nice, they were asking the right questions, and they approached the museum curator, and then they approached me, and like treating us with respect and without fear. So, and she's like, they must be homeschooled. I just laughed, like, yeah, we just begin homeschooling. But yeah, my kids are homeschooled, and I think that is a really good benefit that they do get from homeschooling, interaction from any age and every age. Because it's right, like, up to this day, I don't have a single friend that is my age. Everybody's either younger or older. And let's face it, when I was in elementary school, I was everybody's pet, because I did not get along with the kids my age. So I will go with the older ones, and I was totally their pet. But now that I see my kids can interact with every age and any age, it just fills my heart so much that they just interact with whoever they feel comfortable, and they make their own little groups. And going back to what you were mentioning, the resilience that these kids are getting due to COVID, gaining a different skill of interacting with people in a different way that we were used to. Like, when we used to go to the co-op, they had a space, and now they have to interact within a distance, and then they still can do it, even if they have to do at social distancing play dates. they're still able to adapt. Like they're building resilience within them. Like I found out that you can play badminton very well from a distance. So
Yes.
I've been doing that, badminton and throwing the ball.
Yes.
Hula hoops as well.
Yeah.
So I think that the way you're expressing that, making another way to fill that void of what we're missing, it has been very important, because we are rediscovering things that we were forgetting because we were either too busy or too focused on technology or running from one place to another. So it's beautiful that you guys had a chance to reconnect again with games and baking. And because I mean, there was at some point we couldn't even leave the house, right?
Yeah.
But he just baked. Everybody learned to cook at this point. Even if it's just to make an egg or something, everybody just learned something. And let's face it, those are basic skills that I have met college kids that have no idea how to cook, not even to boil water. So it is amazing that these kids are having all these opportunities, and that they are building resilience, and mothers like you are getting creative. So you don't get stuck in a rut saying, well, do I teach them online? Do this or that? But you're getting, okay, what can we do? And that's a beautiful character development that you are growing, not just with the kids, but with yourself. What can we do with what we have, and being thankful for what we do have? So I really appreciate that you shared that with us, Alia. I think it is something very important, that whether you're homeschooling or your kids are going to regular school, that we could learn from each other. They're being creative, being thankful, and a lot of character development. Because after all, once we are on our way out, which we already are, our kids are going to be the ones in charge, right? Our kids are going to be the ones leading the way. So we want to leave good citizens of the world and good family representatives.
Yes, exactly. No, it's true. You want them to be good human beings and good adults. Like, it isn't just teaching a child just what they need to know as a child. Like, it's teaching them what are they going to need in the future. And you might as well start now. And
if your kids have grown up, it's never too late to start.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Ever. You might as well just try something. And, if you don't like it, try something else. And you don't have to, go to university and college and pick a course and then be like, oh no, I don't like doing this. Like, you might as well try different things. And homeschooling is great for giving all those different options. And of course, getting together when we could with other families and seeing what they do. And that's why our community is so important, where we can help each other out and, give each other ideas. And a lot of the groups online where one mom might organize something and just say, hey, this is an option. You want to go to a field trip doing this? And it's like, I never would have even thought of that. But yeah, let's try it. Like, why not? It's a unique opportunity. And, the kids might learn something that they wouldn't have even thought of, or I wouldn't have even thought of doing. So it's really cool to have those different options and ideas.
Exactly, and be part of a community. And there are some times, let's face it, that they're not going to learn much in their field trip because they're so distracted, but they are having fun with other kids. And within that fun, they're learning something. I mean, there have been times that my kids go on a field trip and they didn't remember much about the field trip, but they have the time of their life and they talk about the memory over and over and over again. So especially boys, that they can be, silly sometimes. Oh, I remember he did this, and then he jumped, or he did that, or it is a great opportunity.
Oh yeah, I remember that field trip. That's when so and so did this. It's like, yeah, sure. That's
do you remember what you were learning?
Yeah. But sometimes you never know, because sometimes you think, this kid isn't getting any of this. They're just goofing around and doing whatever they're doing. And then, a few months later, they're like, well, remember when, so-and-so said this? And I'm like, oh my goodness, you remembered that and you were listening? Like, sometimes it just takes a while. It kind of gets in their ear and it just kind of takes a while to get to their brain or something. And then it's like, oh yeah, like just being in that environment sometimes where it's just like, you're going to get something that you're just going to learn something, whatever it is. Hopefully it's good things. And it isn't like when my kids went to vacation Bible school and I'm like, oh, what did you learn? And they came back doing the floss. And I'm like,
Yes.
okay, good. Now you know how to do the floss.
Good
But
cardio.
you just never know what they're absorbing. And sometimes those seeds are getting planted and one day we might see them bloom. Who knows?
Exactly. We have been in different field trips and suddenly we will be driving along the highway and my daughter will be like, oh, right, we learned about the turbines when we had this big map and we talked to other families. It's kind of like, really? I can barely remember that, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
And she remembers how they work and everything. So I love it. So in closing, because I think we did went a little bit over time, but in closing, it's hard to close when you're having a good conversation.
I know.
And learning so much from each other.
Yes,
so,
for sure.
Do you have any words of advice or wisdom for families who are homeschooling or are contemplating homeschooling?
Yeah, sure. I guess the main thing would to be don't do it alone. Find a community or start a community, and even if it's just one other family or a mom who had homeschooled their kids, and you can just kind of pick their brain, just start somewhere. And you just need somebody to kind of bounce ideas off of, and even just to tell you, no, that's normal and you're doing a good job. And it's just like life where it's nice to have somebody else going through the same thing with you. And I'd say that's super important. Also for people who are beginning to homeschool, there are so many different ways to do it. It isn't just you sit at the table and you have to know everything about math before they even start grade 1. You don't. I'd like to think that I just stay one step ahead of them. That's, sometimes that's all you can do. But there are so many different ways to do it. So to say to somebody, or for somebody to think, oh, I could never do that. I could never spend all day with my kids and teach them everything that they need to know. I'm not doing that. And it looks different for everybody and every child and every season of life. And, you don't have to think, oh, I can't do that because I can't do that one thing, or I can't do that one way, or I don't know that one, whatever. Use technology, use books, use anything at your disposal to teach them the things that you don't need to know. And something that I've really tried to do for my kids is, I've, again with the books, but I've tried to get ones where a lot of reference and like encyclopedias, dictionaries, that kind of thing. And I really want to teach them how to learn on their own. So they want to learn about airplanes or whatever. I'll, take them over to the bookshelf. Well, this book is about airplanes, or here's an encyclopedia. Let's look it up. And they'll study the diagrams, and they will, even if they can't read, they'll look at the pictures. And it's like, well, I don't need to teach you everything because I can't. And I'm not going to be able to teach you everything throughout your whole life. It's just one of those things where I want you to be able to learn on your own, and I'm going to help you. And, just having that, my kids aren't using the internet yet, but, at some point, I don't know a lot of stuff, and they'll ask me questions and I'll just kind of pretend I know, but really I'm Googling it. And it's like,
that's our secret. I do the same.
Yeah. Where it's just like, you know what? There's no way we can know everything. So for somebody to think, oh my goodness, I have to teach them everything they need to know. No, you don't. You just need to teach them, kind of guide them along, and to teach them how to learn on their own, and that is something that they can just take with them forever. When their car breaks down, well, let's Google it, and I'm going to see if I can, put a new alternator in on my own because I watched this video and maybe I can do it on my own. Like, it's just one of those things where, yeah, you don't need to know everything. It's not, there's good days and bad days, but it isn't as intimidating as it seems. So I guess that would be.
Well, it does kind of sounds overwhelming when you said, well, the way I find that the way they word it out when you are the one who has to send that note to the school for the ones who are transitioning, it sounds overwhelming when they said you are going to be solely responsible for the education of your child. It feels like, oh,
yeah.
And it's no, I mean, we were their first teachers. We taught them how to talk, how to walk, how to eat, how to keep the food in their mouth.
Yeah.
So apparently someone here is still making fun of that. So we were their first teachers. We can definitely have the capability. Books are awesome, an awesome reference, Google. And whenever we don't know, we can go and ask somebody else. There is somebody who ought to know this.
Exactly.
And that's why it's important to have a community. Hey, I have no idea how to do this. Do you know? No, I don't, but I know somebody who does.
Right.
So it is also an opportunity to, again, interact, socialize, and learn from other people, because there is no one other than God who's going to know everything in the world. And I think that now that we have, pardon me, technology at our hands so available, you can find pretty much everything in the internet. And my kids are on the internet, and still I say that the internet is not always reliable. So I like my trusty books, the library we have at home.
Yes.
And apparently I have instilled that love into my kids, because now they have a library on their own and we don't know where to put that many books.
That's a good problem.
We have more books than shoes. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, same here.
So there is always also a way that you mentioned is to help them learn on their own. To give them the tools, not to go and fish for them, but to go with them and show them how to fish. That's exactly how you feed them later on in life. You don't give them everything done. You teach them how to go and find it, how to find the real news versus the fake news. Want to find a recipe, how to do this, how to do that. So it is a great way that you're sharing with us. So thank you so much, Leah. It's so beautiful to be able to spend time with your family and teach them, and to be able to know what are they doing with their day, especially as they are growing up, with who they are interacting, what values are they absorbing, what are they learning, what are their passions, what do they really like, what do they dislike. And I think that that's the gift that we have as a homeschooling that many families used to have when all this growing country began. That your unit, your family unit, and I think that that's something that we take as a granted as a homeschoolers, that we have the opportunity to spend so much time with our kids. And I think that that's even better gift than all the academics that we can give them, that they have the memory like you have. Your mom is spending time with you, your parents homeschooling you and teaching you, and your husband making more bookshelves for them. All that, I mean, is so amazing that many families are missing out because there is just so many other things to do, and everybody goes on their own. So I'll let you go back to your family. Thank you so much for taking this time to share with us your wisdom and everything that you have learned from when you were homeschooled, and everything that you're learning as you're homeschooling yourself. And I wish you all the best, and hopefully we can see each other again in the co-op soon. We definitely miss everybody so much.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Thank you so much, and take care, Alia.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.